Whoa!
Welcome to the What's Up Verdict podcast, where we fashion ourselves cinematic judge and jury. My name's JJ Crowder. I'm here with my co-hosts Mattson Heiner
Better read than dead.
and Alec Burgess.
Let's get it.
We appreciate you tuning in. Go ahead and hit that follow, subscribe, like, bell notification buttons. Tell a friend about us. Tell your family about us. Tell an out of work or working too damn much, but nobody watches those movies actor. You can also go find maybe a drug lord to tell about us too. We'll take those guys, only if they share though. So with that, we're in week 4 of our Nicolas Cage marathon movie of September. Loving it. It's been fun. It's been wild. It's been weird. If you haven't watched our episodes, go back and watch the last 3. They've been great. We've got Mattson on a rampage. We've had Alec on a rampage. We've had me on a real rampage.
Probably will do another one of Nick Cage. JJ was looking up. This dude's got some good and some obscure and weird movies. He is a very unique. I'm sure there's a couple other actors that fit this billing, but Nick Cage is a different breed.
Yeah, he's a different dude. I think we should do another month and do like only movies nobody's ever heard of.
That nobody's ever heard of.
We fucking wait because there's plenty, I'm sure. But this week we're doing one that I think probably everybody's heard of, and that's The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. It was released April 22nd, 2022. It was written by Tom Gormican and Kevin Etten. It was directed by Tom Gormican. It stars Nicolas Cage, Pedro Pascal, Tiffany Haddish, Sharon Horgan, Paco Leon, Neil Patrick Harris, Lily Mo Sheen, Alessandra Mastronardi, God, these names, and Katrin Vankova, with a couple of really cheeky cameos. So with that, this movie is about movie star Nick Cage, and it's channeling his iconic characters as he's caught between a superfan and a CIA agent. This movie. Who picked this one? Was this a you pick, Alec or Mattson, or was this Alec too?
This was a Mattson pick.
I picked this one. Yeah,
this
I remember when this movie came out in theaters, and this movie is very. We were just talking about if you haven't listened to the Army of One, how I was surprised I didn't see memes. This movie had a ton of memes, and I think how I first came across it, I think the scene that was most memed was when they're on LSD driving the convertible and they're looking at each other, and that's I think my first introduction to this movie, being like, what is happening here? And then the second scene I think I remember the most, while they're also on LSD, is the whole wall dramatic scene. Like they're trying to get over the wall,
yeah.
And then they realize they could have just walked around it. Like, look, is this the best movie you're ever going to see? No. But is this movie pretty dang entertaining, in my opinion? Yes. And I also think it's because there's another phenomenal actor in this movie, in Pedro Pascal, who maybe I definitely like pretty much everything that he's in. I think it's a unique movie in the sense that they're making fun of Nick Cage. So you got to commend the man for being able to basically do a live roast session through a movie and fully embrace that. I think there's something to be said for that. Like, power to him for doing that. At least he has the wherewithal to know his career, while it's had some highs, has also had some weirdness and some super lowness, and he's here for it. And it made a pretty good movie. What I would have loved to have known is who pitched this movie. Like, Nick, this is the movie we need to make for you right now in your career. And he's like, done. That would have been a funny conversation. But I think this is an underrated movie. It's funny to me. It made me laugh. And I think a lot of it is because I didn't know what to expect. And a lot of times, as we know, doing this with movies, expectations can get the best of you. I didn't have many, but I had heard kind of that this movie was funny, and I was here for it. I liked it. And watching it again, it was funny.
Yeah. I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. This is my kind of movie because it's weird, it's quirky. I think my only problem with this movie is it was very predictable as far as like the overarching story, right? Like in how it plays out. But I was okay with that because I was like, that's clever. I'm okay with something if it's predictable, as long as I'm like, oh yeah, that's clever. I like.
But the pieces along the way were funny and well thought out, so I think you're like, okay, I can see where it's going. But it's also power in the fact that you like where it's going.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Yeah, and I think this is a great example. I've talked a lot about in the podcast over our 300 plus episodes of movie reviews that,
Humble
like,
brag.
I know, right? That I really like, and I think we lost Alec, where he's really good at sitting still.
I think we did because he looks
Yeah,
terrifyingly still.
yeah, he's not even moving at all. So I think this is what I've talked a lot about through our episodes, movies that focus on scenes versus story, and then there's movies that are story and scenes. And to me, this is a great combination of all of them. And so, all right, for those watching us on YouTube, it's going to be kind of funny. We're going to switch to a two-man show and listen to my dog bark here
Alex
real quick.
Power has blipped out. That's what
Yeah,
he.
Alex Power is gone. So we're going to switch our background. You're going to miss that poster, but that's okay. And you get to hear my dog bark. It's a shit show over
Raw
here.
and live, baby.
We're here for it. Yeah, like this movie has a combination of both. Like it's got a very interesting story as from an overall perspective because it's weird and it's this actor that we all know, and you can't help but have at least a movie that you love of his, and then all of a sudden you're seeing what it looks like to be burnt out and not being popular, and he's willing to take any movie. Like he accosts this producer at the beginning of the movie and does I'm gonna read for you, and slams his door shut, does this really shitty Boston accent, like, and then you have, he's doing anything to get paid, but it turns into this really weird friendship, and then he becomes this like CIA agent. Fuck it. Look, it just is a lot of fun from
There's just so
beginning to end.
many ludicrous things, but what we haven't talked about, I mentioned Pedro Pascal. The chemistry between them was so good. Like honestly, this is where I'm like, if I'm Hollywood, like figure out a way to do something else again with that. Like they had it. Like their scenes, they were going back and forth. Like it was just I don't know, like it just clicked like immediately. I was like, oh, I can feel the synergy. I can feel like they're bouncing off of each other. And I mean, we've seen a lot of movies when you have like that juxtaposition, when it works, like it almost just comes across. I mean, like the best actors come across natural. And I was like, wow, like this feels exactly like the story they're trying to tell. And that's the thing I love the most is it felt genuine, it felt silly, but it also felt like real. I was like, oh man, I'm just eating it up. And even seeing it again, I was just impressed with the chemistry between them.
Yeah. No, yeah, they paired up extremely well. Hey, look, the man's back.
I just didn't like what Mattson was saying.
Yeah.
Record.
Like, fuck it, I'm taking my ball and going home. Welcome back, friend. And look, this has been like the wildest. Look, this recording fits well with this movie. It's fucking random. It's weird. We got dogs barking. We got power going out. The universe just decided to commit.
Might as well start eating again.
Yeah, no shit. Here goes Mattson with his chewing. So enjoy this episode, folks. It's a little fucking weird, but we like it. Yeah, Alec, we were just talking about the fact that Mattson was talking about Pedro Pascal and Nick Cage having great chemistry and working well together, and how really Hollywood should latch onto that and put those two together again because it worked out really well.
Oh,
and I was talking about, I was talking about the fact that like overall this has great, not just great scenes, but a great overall story that even though it's predictable, it's fun and it's entertaining, and each scene is a little different. Like there's memorable moments in this movie that you can't help but go back to, like the wall and the LSD in the car, and even like the very end, like the rescue shit. Like it's fucking great. So yeah, there's just some great moments. But now that you're back, grace us with your thoughts on The Unbearable Weight.
My thoughts. So I went into this with a very high expectations because this is the first time I'd ever seen this movie.
Oh, really?
And 2 years ago when it came out, you could not look anywhere without seeing something from this movie. And I kind of just put it off like, nah. Oshi came back. She's like, oh, this is the greatest movie ever. Like, I loved it, all this stuff. And so I watched it. When I watched it, I was like, I'm so happy Mattson's muted right now. He has no idea.
I was gonna say, I'm worried where this is going. Is while you were out, I said I was the opposite. I seen teeny pieces, but I didn't have expectations. And what you're about to tell me, as we always say, expectations are usually not a good thing. So I'm curious now.
Yeah. So when I watched it, I was like, oh, okay. Like it wasn't as good as I expected it to be, but there were those moments spaced throughout where I was like, oh, haha, that was funny. But so it became it didn't necessarily like fall flat and hurt the movie so much, but I was like, oh, okay, this was just a movie. Like whoever was the marketing person behind this was a fucking genius. But this is just a typical kind of Nick Cage movie, and then you throw in Pedro Pascal to add the actual talent into the part of the massive part. And so you have this kind of great chemistry that you guys were talking about. But at the same time, it just was I was like, oh, okay, yeah. This is exactly as what it was built.
That's the line of this
Alec,
podcast. That was funny.
That's good shit. I mean, you got the massive part. Alec with the gold right there. Alec with the gold. No, that's interesting. Like, and it's a good, to Mattson's point, it's a good show of expectations and how they can ruin a movie or make a movie different. Because I would have thought, especially Alec, knowing you, like I thought this would be like one of your top tier movies, just because it's quirky, it's weird, and it's fun. But I also get, like, when you go into it going, dude, this movie must be dope as fuck, because everybody was talking about it for like a year. Then you're like, oh, okay, it was good, but
I'm trying to think of a movie that I knew was like the shiz, and it still was when I saw it. Like it's hard. Like it's so. I guess Doom 2, of recent memory was. I mean, another one where you just heard, and then I watched it and I was like, damn, this is pretty dang good. Like I can't really be upset with what I just watched here. It's so hard though, because even when you're watching it, and you probably experienced this, Alice, you're like, I know this is supposed to be good. People are saying it's good. I'm not but I'm not feeling the vibe as much. I'm not sure. Like, and then you have that battle the whole time, and almost like a guilt. And then you're comparing, like waiting and hoping, like, oh, this scene, this must be like the one. It's gonna click. It's gonna be so much funnier. And then it like never comes. And then the movie finishes. They're like, oh, okay.
It was a little bit like that because the way that I was kind of picturing it in my mind beforehand was very much kind of in the drug lord Pedro Pascal kind of arena. And that wasn't really the major part of the movie. It was, the two of them creating a movie together and their experience along that way. So I was kind of like, I think it would have been better for my expectations if we saw just like Nick Cage go hang out with a drug lord for a week and just do drug lord shit. Like, I think that would have been hilarious. And that was kind of what I was expecting with this. And then we went in and it's like, oh, yeah, well, we're making a movie together, this or that, throw in the CIA bit. And I was just kind of, it wasn't what I was expecting.
Oh, we're losing him again.
Oh, he's gone.
Bye, Alec.
Bye.
Oh, he's back.
Yeah.
You were saying it wasn't what you expect. I'm loving this. This episode's making me happy.
I hate everything about this. But yeah, it wasn't what I was expecting. So I was kind of just like, this was a good movie, but at the same time, I was like, I expected it to be so much more because of all the hype that it was getting. Yeah. And I was like, oh, okay. At the end of the day, this is a movie. It's good. It's enjoyable. I'm having a good time watching it. There's some funny bits, like the whole shoe switching scene. Like you want to trade forever. Like the little interactions were so great, but at the same time, like the overall story and everything, I was like, oh, okay. This is just Nick Cage movie. He doesn't have very much depth or stretch in his stories.
What in terms of cameos, wasn't Giancarlo Esposito in this as like, was he the mayor or something, or am I totally making that up? I thought maybe he wasn't in this movie.
I don't think he was. Demi Moore was in it.
I don't think he was. That's who I was thinking of. Yeah. Like, of all the people I wanted a cameo as a drug lord, I was like, man, it would have been awesome to have him just like show up and like be in that somehow. Because granted, his character in Breaking Bad is dead, but he would have been funny to have him play like a funny drug lord for a second.
Yeah. Yeah, no, yeah, you had Demi Moore and then you had Neil Patrick Harris, but Neil Patrick Harris was kind of in it.
Yeah,
a little bit. So it wasn't like it was less of a cameo and more of a role. But yeah, no Giancarlo Esposito, though I agree with you. It would have been a great cameo. The other thing I like about this movie, and then I do have one bitch about the movie, but it's ridiculously quotable. Like, yeah, it's got like one of my favorite. Paddington 2 was incredible. I fucking told you. Like, it's just so stupid. And I think like that's again, and this goes to more to me, and probably shouldn't admit this shit, but like I can see myself and a couple of my friends having stupid ass conversations like this. Like, I mean, obviously not to the extreme or about these, but like the other one that made me laugh was like, are those my golden guns? They're my golden guns. I don't want to kill you. You're the last person I want to kill. I love you. I love you. Like, just the randomness of some of the conversations is so real. And then like their first interaction too, like when he first shows up and he's like, man, guy that owns his house, what's his name? He's like, Javi. He's like, look, if Javi wants me to suck his dick or fuck his wife or watch him fuck his wife, that's a no-go. You understand? Ain't no bueno. He's like, I'm Javi. And all he does is bow. Like,
Nick Cage.
The writing is just fucking incredible in this movie to me. And I think that's what, just like the last one for me, I know Mattson hated it, but I want like the writing and what Nick Cage can do with good writing when this is where I say he's gotten better with age. Like there's some shit that early on, I'm like, man, it's just Nick Cage being Nick Cage. And in this one, it worked really well. And in some of these newer movies, like I just think he's a better actor now, but he's got himself in some weird shit. But I just love this movie.
I'm going to do what I do best. I'm going to act like I'm acting.
Yeah, well, and then I love like the play too on like his inability, like he buys dumb shit, and like his wax figure, he's like, is that supposed to be me? That is grotesque. I'll give you 20 grand for it. It's just like, but he does stupid shit like that. Like he bought Graceland. He bought like, what else did he buy? Like he's just bought some random ass shit, which is why he makes every movie ever under the sun that's given to him. And it's funny too, because Nick Cage is an interesting, because he's, to be honest, like he didn't have to do weird, like he comes from he's a Coppola. Like this dude is like, he comes from a very high level Hollywood family, but he never wanted to be part of that. So it's, I don't know. Nick Cage is a very interesting.
Actually, Jay, you mentioned, because I don't know much about Nick Cage's backstory. What about his family? Because I've never looked it up or know about it.
So
Francis Ford Coppola.
Yeah, I think his uncle is Francis Ford Coppola, and his cousin's like Sofia Coppola. So like, I mean, yeah, one of the most famous writer director, and then it, like I said, Sophia's almost as good as her dad. So.
See, now, if I was in a rich, high-power Hollywood family and I was going to rebel, I wouldn't just make every movie available. I would go do something like flip burgers at McDonald's. It's nice that the idea of rebelling in Hollywood is I'm just going to go make a ton of money making every single movie imaginable.
Yeah.
Must be nice.
Yeah. Well, and that's, I mean, it's a hard, and part of me gets to, I'm with you. One, I'm going to go the opposite direction, but part of me gets it too. That's a hard legacy to live up to. You're in this family where your uncle, I think it's his uncle, I'd have to look up their relation, but like has made 3 of the most popular movies ever created in, you know, the Godfather trilogy. I mean, it's absolutely nuts what you have to live up to in that situation. And then your cousin's like takes up her father's mantle and becomes a fabulous director in her own right. And so it's just like, then you got Nicolas Cage of The Rock fame. You know what I mean? Like it's just, what the fuck are you doing, dude? But I think that's, to me, what made this movie for me, one of like the highlights in the background is like that it's always hovering over, while this is a fictional version of Nicolas Cage, you still have little hints of probably things that are very real. And so I was really intrigued by that and enjoyed it. It was a real highlight for me in this movie. Now, I want to shit on this a little bit, and I'm just going to say 2 words. Tiffany Haddish. Fuck, I hate her. Like, she has, and in every movie she's in, like, she's just too much. She's kind of like, what's the Asian actress? Awkwafina.
I hate
Mattson.
No, I'm the same thing with Tiffany Haddish. I mean, similar. Right?
Yeah. Tiffany Haddish is just too much. And every once in a while for me, she lands on something and I'll laugh. But most of the time I'm just like, stop it. Like, you can tell. And I think with people like that, for me, it's like they're acting. Like there's no subtlety at all, and I don't like it bothers me. So every time she's on camera in this movie, I'm like, oh, shut up. And it's worse too because she plays so much against with her partner. Who's the guy that's her partner? What's his name? The one that's Ike Barinholtz, I think, is the actor's name. Yeah. Because he's one of those like journeyman actors that's like in a lot of shit and he's really funny. So like when he's telling her at the very beginning when Nick Cage is getting off the plane, he's like, "You gotta go, you gotta bail." I think that's Nick Cage. Like it just for me, I loved him, but then I'm just like, go away, Tiffany Haddish. So if there's a dark spot on this movie for me, it's Tiffany Haddish. We lost Alec again. I love keeping him in freeze frame though.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
There he is.
I wouldn't disagree with that, but thankfully it's something that, I mean, that's one of the reasons it's really hard to make a perfect movie.
True. I just hate that she got hired in so many movies because she made one movie that she was funny in, and then everybody's like, "Oh, hire her for everything," and it's just like, stop it.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah. All right, should we rate it?
Let's do it. What am I gonna rate this movie?
Yeah,
I'm gonna give it a 4. I'm gonna go 4. I think it's solid 4. This is an absolutely rewatchable movie. If you haven't seen this movie, definitely watch this movie. Maybe just tell yourself it's gonna be kind of funny, and then it'll end up just being really funny. But I think it's funny by yourself. Certainly funny with people. If you like Pedro Pascal, if you like Nick Cage, I mean, I can't think. It's great. And if you're here for kind of a predictable but absolutely deliverable and well done, well written comedy, it's hard to find something that's going to fit the billing better than this. It's right up there with those type of comedies. Watch it.
Definitely. I'm gonna give it a 4.5. I will watch this movie anytime, anyway. This is one of those movies for me because it just makes me laugh. And I will say it comes with the caveat of to dull the expectations. You have to understand that this is a pointless movie. Like this is not a movie that you go for like intellectual uplifting or like this is a movie to go and just let go of everything and have a good time and just laugh at the ridiculousness of it. And yet the relatability of it for me, like it's just so funny and so interesting and such an interesting take on Nicolas Cage and his life. And then this weird, odd situation that's just so off the wall, but you don't have to like try to think through anything. You just can watch it, have a good time, laugh, make fun of Nicolas Cage, enjoy Pedro Pascal, enjoy a bunch of really funny people in supporting roles and just add to this ridiculous situation. And if you go into it understanding that there's no point to this movie other than having a good time, I think you'll just really love it. Like I do, because I think it's great. And I think it's one of the better movies that's come out over the last couple of years, to be honest. So that's me, 4.5. I'll definitely watch it again. All right, Alec, balance us out.
Expectations are a very real thing. I'm putting this at a 3.5, and I don't see myself right now as ever watching it again. I really have no desire to kind of go back and watch it. I mean, it was good. Yeah, I enjoyed a lot of pieces in it, but I was left feeling flat at the end, where I was like, okay, this is okay, good, I like it, but
do you hear what the sound of this? This is deep breathing I'm doing right now.
You're very good at it.
Oh my gosh. For our listeners that listened last week, what did you rate Army of One? Didn't you give that a 3.5? And you said it was.
And if given the choice, I will watch Army of One before I watch.
And that's all our listening audience needed to hear, and why we don't listen to Alec and his reviews. He's here for comedic fodder. Thank you. That's all I have to say. Appreciate you listening.
This, of course, coming from the guy who shit all over Uncle Buck.
Exactly.
And Bill and Ted.
That's not.
And Gross Point Blank.
We don't have enough time for me to get worked up on Bill and Ted right now.
Fucking hurt my soul. But But it's also Alec's scoring is in comparison to Army of One is another great lesson in expectations. He had no expectations.
No expectations for Army 1. Phenomenal. I had all
huge
the expectations for this, and it fell flat.
Yep. I mean, kind of flat. 3.5 is still a pretty good score, but
it fell flatter than what I was expecting. I was
There
expecting
you
over the moon. So that's
Alec's
that's
scale is broken.
Mattson's life is broken.
I think you're both broken in wonderful ways. Because I'm busted as fuck. So let's just call it. We'll change the name to the "What's Our Brokenness" podcast. I like it. Cool. There it is. The unbearable weight of massive talent. We have a lot of massive talent in this room or recording. Is it a room? I mean, I'm in a room. You guys are in a room.
Virtual.
I'm in a box.
There you go. I'm in a box.
Alex has been duping us the whole time. He's in prison.
That's why the internet sucks today.
Yeah.
Prison in Pakistan. That's
No,
what
he's in it. He had to get his hourly beating by the guards for misbehaving. They're gonna put his mouth cover like in Hannibal Lecter back on here shortly.
It just got weird, and I like it. All right, Alec. Hopefully, you won't freeze in the middle of it. But why don't you tell everybody where really can find us?
That would be really awkward if I did. Thank you for tuning into our review of my personal story on the podcast, The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. Thank you for that joke, JJ. This is week 4 of Nick Cage movies in an incredible month. This movie is without a doubt a Nick Cage movie. Special thanks to our patrons for selecting it. That'd be Raging Dumpster Fire, Mel Brooks, and Richard, and for supporting the podcast. Patreon's a place to go get involved with the content on What's Our Verdict, so join us there at What's Our Verdict Reviews to be a part of the list choosing for movies and then what we watch and review every month. With that, I'll kick it back to the Titan of Terror, the Colossus of Clout, JJ.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Thanks, Alec. This is fun. This is a wild ass podcast, that episode, and I loved it. I thought that we got fucking people losing power. We got differing opinions.
Jail.
We got Alec in jail. We got
Mattson's into some real kinky
I
shit.
I should have said Arkham Asylum as
There,
probably the proper term.
That would have been good. Hanging out with the Joker. We got a lot of
Alec would
massive
talk to him,
talent.
too. He'd be like, actually, I got him on speed dial.
Yep. Here in this room, we got massive talent and some unbearable weight sitting on my belly right now. So with that, as always, we appreciate you tuning in. We'll catch you in the next one.
Boy!
Hasta la vista, baby.
Cinemagic out.
Whoa!